Hey guys, I made this 3ds Max crash course, but you might have this question like, who is this guy and why I should even watch a free course on YouTube? So I made some introduction about me and the class to connect with you guys better. I am Bilal and I am a 3D visualizer working in interior, exterior, and product segments for the last 5 years. So I think I know my shit. So a lot of people have problems in using basics of 3ds Max functions, but I'm using this amazing piece of tech for almost 5 years now, and it fulfills almost all my work needs as 3D visualization artist. I think there's a gap in learning this amazing software, so that's why I created this all-in-one beginner 3ds Max crash course for free to watch on YouTube. The main reason for making this course is so you can know about 3ds Max interface and a lot of things that 3ds Max has to offer. Whether you're a complete beginner or someone looking to brush up on your skills, this course is designed to get you up and running in no time. Over the next few lessons, we'll dive into the basics of 3ds Max, menu bar, main toolbar, understanding the viewport and shortcuts, command panel, and last, material editor. I've created this course with a simple goal in mind: to make learning 3ds Max straightforward and fun, even if you've never opened the software before. By the end of this crash course, you'll have the confidence to navigate the 3ds Max interface, create basic 3D objects, apply materials, use shortcuts with complete confidence. I'm using 3ds Max 2024, so I can also show you the amazing features that 3ds Max added lately. If you're using old versions, then some things may not work. I suggest you to switch to 2024 because a lot of things improved in 2024. As you can see, I'm also using AI voice. I hope you don't mind it. When I'll have proper setup, then I'll start recording my own voice in tutorials. Make sure to rate this voice in comments. So let's get started. Open up 3ds Max and let's take your first step into the world of 3D creation together. In the first lesson, we will explore the 3ds Max menu bar in detail. The menu bar is a crucial part of the 3ds Max interface. The menu bar is located at the top of the 3ds Max interface and consists of several menus, each containing a variety of commands. Let's examine each menu in detail. First, we have some basic options like new, which will create new file, save, save as, and open. This options you already know. If you want to make new file, press Ctrl plus N. If you want to save file, press Ctrl plus S. If you want to make file as new file or save as, you can press Ctrl plus Shift plus S. If you want to open some file, you can press Ctrl plus O. Now, save selected is useful. If you want to save some part of your scene into new file, like one or two model from scene, you can do this from here. Just select object and press save selected, so this will only save that object only. Open recent is also useful. Sometimes this option will show you your last opened files in 3ds Max. Archive will make one zip file with your file and all the textures and external things you have used in your scene. If you want to import models from another program like AutoCAD, Revit, or SketchUp, you can import it from import option. And if you want to import models from another 3ds Max file, you can use merge option to import them. Export will obviously can help you export models from Max to other formats. Xref scene and object will help you import heavy object into your scene in a way that it'll not take load from your scene while working and can help you maintain heavily dense file easily. This is quite complex, don't worry for now. If you press Shift plus T, then, or click here, you'll see this asset tracking toggle. This toggle can help you get track of your textures from the scene, like how many textures you have and are they properly or not, etc. Preference tab gives specific permission to 3ds Max. Let's set some of it. First, undo limit is set to 500, means your scene will undo 500 times. You can your own desired level from 1 to 500. In files, you have auto backup interval time, like how many time you need 3ds max to back up automatically, and how many file you need 3ds max to make. Like if you put 5 minutes with 3 interval, 3ds max will make 3 file in 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes in each 5-minute 3ds max replace first, second, and third file accordingly in backup. These are some other options, but I showed you what are useful. The group menu is used to organize objects, and it's very helpful. If you select multiple objects and make group from here, they will become one group like this. From here, you can ungroup. Open and close is basically here to open and close the groups. If you have multiple group in one group, open recursively will open all the group at once. Attach and detach will help you attach and detach objects from one group. There are lots of options here, but I don't use any of this tab ever. I use a lot of tool, like align and stuff like that, which is here also, but we'll see them when we reach the main toolbar section of the course. Don't worry, you are not missing out anything if you don't use these tabs. The rendering tab is one of the most important tabs in 3ds Max. Let's see some of its options. If you press Shift plus Q or F9, then rendering will start immediately. If you click here or press F10, then render setup will open. From here you can set Corona or V-Ray as a renderer. If you go to any view and press this lock icon here, then it'll lock that particular view for rendering. From here you can set custom output size for your project. If you unlock this aspect ratio and set another ratio and lock it again, then it will lock that ratio for future in this project. Now you can change output height or width without need to worry about ratio. Let's go to V-Ray or Corona renderer from here, and let's go to render element here. You can add additional passes for your render. You can save your render output from here. If you put your path here, then whenever you'll do render for that project, it'll be automatically going to be saved here. I'm going to show you this when we reach rendering section in future. If you press 8 or click here, it'll take you to Environment and Effect tab. From here, you can set background and atmosphere for your project. We use other stuff as well, but we'll see those maybe later. The Customize tab allows you to customize user interface, hotkeys, and changes units. If you click on Customize User Interface, you'll see this box. If you go to Toolbar, you can take specific tool and drag it in the main toolbar. Like this, you can also make your own toolbar from here and drag your needed tools from here like this, and then drag your toolbar to main toolbar. Let's test this. If you go to quad, then you can add shortcuts to your right click of your mouse. Just drag your needed shortcut and save. Next time when you'll right click from your mouse, you'll see that shortcut there. If you go to hotkey editor, you can set hotkeys as per your need. You can search hotkeys by name of that action or hotkeys itself. Like let's find Swift Loop from action. You can see its shortcut is Alt+1. Now turn to hotkeys and press Alt+1 after clicking here. As you can see, it's showing up here. Now you can go here and press any shortcut you want and assign it from here and save. you can change your units from here. All these units that you see here is display units. If you change any of this unit, it'll not affect your scene's actual units, but only change display of your unit that you see in your program. If you go to System Unit Setup and change your units from here, then it's going to change your actual unit of your project. Don't think too much about this if you don't know anything about this. Just set system unit to inches, and whenever you need to see your scene in millimeter or centimeter, change it from display units always. So this way you'll get right unit system in your project. The scripting menu allows you to run or create script. If you know programming, you can try your own stuff from here. Max can work with Max Script, Max's own scripting language, and Python. If you want to install script that you've downloaded from the web, you need click on the Run script from here. The Help menu provides resources for learning and troubleshooting. From here, you can sign into your 3ds Max licenses if need to. From workspaces, you can save your customized workspace every time you open 3ds Max. Don't think too much right now. When we're done with setting up Main Toolbar, which is the next chapter, you click here and go to Manage Workspaces and just click on Save Default State to save your setup as default 3ds Max. That's all you need to know for menu bar. In the next chapter, we'll look into Main Toolbar. The Main Toolbar in 3ds Max is one of the most frequently used parts of the interface. It provides quick access to essential tools for object manipulation, selection, and scene management. Before starting any object manipulation, let's first understand what is a pivot. If you make a box or any object, can you see this point where this object is getting controlled from? This is called the pivot of an object. You can change your pivot from here if you need to. First here we have undo and redo option. We don't normally use these. We use Control Z for undo and Control Y for redo. We have link unlink option. It's a bit advanced, but for the sake of it, let's see it. If you click and hold on one object and release this line on another object, then we have linked the first object to another object. Now if we move, rotate, or scale second object, the first object will follow. To unlink this, select both object and click here. Next, we have drop-down toggle. Normally, it's set at all. If you've big scene, lot of lights, cameras, or geometries, and you want to select some specific light or camera, you can turn on light or camera here and now. You'll only be able to select light or camera here. Make sure put this on all after your work is done. Otherwise, after a while, you'll think you've some problem in your file and you can't select anything. If you want to select object, you can press Q or click here. This is selection toggle. If you press Q multiple times, your selection type will change. It stays at rectangular. We have rectangle, circle, fence, lasso, and paint selection options in this tool. If you want to select by object's name, you can press H or click here. Now new toggle will pop up and it'll work like this. If you want to move your object, you can press W or click here. It will show gizmo around your selected object. Now you can move it in XYZ, or you can move it independently if you move from here. If you want to rotate your object, press E or click here, and you can rotate like this. If you want to scale your object, press R or click here. Scale tool also has toggle. If you press R multiple time or hold left click on scale, you'll get a bunch of other options to scale your objects differently. Also, if you right click on any of these, it'll show you dialog box to manually put values for move, rotate, or scale. It has uniform, non-uniform, or squash option to choose from. Uniform will make your object scale evenly from here. Non-uniform will have option to scale from X, Y, and Z independently. Squash will make your object scale in any direction, but it'll maintain object's total area. If you press Y or click here, you'll get select and place option. With this, you'll be able to put object on another object by their pivot location. Sometimes this is useful. Next, we have another very useful drop-down toggle. You can move your object in different type. Mostly we use view, screen, local, and pick option. Now look at the gizmo. This is called gizmo. If you select move tool set, this to view, your gizmo will take your entire viewport as reference and give you X, Y, and Z accordingly. If you rotate your viewport, your gizmo will stay the same. If you put it to screen, it'll think your front screen as canvas and give you X and Y to move from. Sometime this option is very helpful in cross areas. If you move your viewport, your gizmo will also change. If you put it on local, then it'll only consider objects. Local gizmo as its gizmo. It's also very useful in curve areas. Before we look at the last pick option, we have look at next tool. Next is pivot center. This too can help you edit multiple objects in your selection and stuff. Let's select two objects. If you put this on use, pivot point center, then it'll select both objects from their pivot. And if I scale them, they will be scaled individually. If I put it on use selection center, it'll use center of your selection to perform any changes. Now if I scale it, both objects will be scaled, form the center of the selection. If I use transform coordination center, then it'll use that previous pick option to work. Let's set this here. Now let's make another box somewhere else and make sure to double check this. Now select transform coordination center and now go to pick and let's pick this third box as center. Now our previously made boxes will work. Use this box as a pivot and you can transform them around this box. These options will be changed if go from move to selection or rotation. So let's go to rotate. I know this is quite complex for you at this stage, but if you practice enough, you'll get it. Next, we have snap. If you press S or click here, you'll turn on snap tool. If you left click and hold on snap tool, you'll see different types of snaps you can use in 3ds Max. Normally we use 3D or 2.5D snaps. If you right click on it, you'll be able to turn on snap in different stuff like vertex, grid, etc. You can use it like this. If you go to options and turn on enable axis constraints, you'll be able to do this. Otherwise, it'll go randomly. You can turn on snap to frozen objects. Oh yes, if you press G on keyboard, your grid will hide, and if you press again, it will show up again. If you press A or click here, it'll turn on or off angle snap toggle. You can set angle in snap currently, it's 5 degrees. So if you set it to 40, it'll work around 40-degree angle. If you turn this percentage snap on, it'll set snap in percentage wise. Now you can scale by percentage. You can also set it from here. Next, we've selection set. If you select multiple objects in your scene, and if you want to save that as a selection, then you can use this. Let's select these boxes and type 1 and enter. Now these boxes, selection is set in selection set. Now if you go to selection set and click on your selection named 1, then it'll select these boxes again. Next, we have mirror. If you want to flip certain object on certain side, you can use mirror for it. You can use X, Y, Z, or some axis together. You can also make copy of it too while mirroring. Next, we have align. If you press Alt plus A while selecting any object, or click here and click on the second object, you'll get align pop-up box. Now with this box, you can align first object to second object in different ways. This works like this. If you turn on whichever axis, it'll be used in aligning your object. You can use minimum and maximum to put first object on top or on bottom of another object. You can put first object in the center of other object by turning on X, Y, and Z axis and putting center here. If you want to put first object on another object, put minimum in one object and maximum in another. It's frustrating at first. Once you master it, it'll one of the most used tool in 3ds Max. Let's see some examples. Next, we have Scene Explorer. This is basically a layer manager that you see in each program. If you want to dock it anywhere you can. So let's see its use. Let's make a bunch of objects. Now, as you can see, there are two ways you can see Scene Explorer. If you go to Sort by Hierarchy, you just see all the created objects. Here you won't be able to find option to manage layers, but if you go to Sort by Layer, then you can sort objects through layers. If you click on this drop-down arrow, you'll see all the objects are in this default layer. Do you see this icon in front of default layer? This means this layer is set as default for newly created objects. Now from here you can turn on or off freeze and renderable or make it display as a box. But if you want to freeze any object, it's best to do it from right-clicking and then going to Object Properties. Here you can freeze object so you can't move it or turn off renderable so it won't show up in the rendering. You can also make it display as a box. Also from here you can make it invisible to camera or reflection, check refraction, and stop it from receiving or casting shadows. Note that if you right-click by selecting Object, you will get a bunch of other options as well, like hiding, unhiding, and freeze, unfreeze all, etc. Now let's get back to the Scene Explorer. As you can see on the side, there are options to see object by its properties. You can hide your geometry or light or shapes from here if you don't want to see it here. If you Alt plus click on their icons here, it'll isolate that selection. Now let's make another layer by clicking here and name it Geometry. As you can see, the new layer has become the active layer now. Now let's select all the geometry and click on Add to Active Layer. As you can see, all the geometries are now in the geometry layer. You can hide, unhide entire layer now. Now let's select all the shapes and click on Create New Layer. What this will do is it'll create new layer and put all the shapes into that layer. Let's rename this. This is another way to make layer faster. You can also get selection of the objects from selection sets that we saw earlier from here. Now, as you can see, all the stuff is properly set up in layers. If you want to move certain object from one layer to another, you need to make that layer by clicking here. Select objects and click on Add to Active Layer. Now make sure you choose Active Layer carefully. As you can see, geometry is an active layer. If we now make any objects, it'll be automatically added to this layer. So that's it for Scene Explorer. Let's move on to other options. Practice this because it's very helpful in large scenes. Next option is Show Ribbon. If you turn it on, you'll see this long bar. This is called the ribbon. Ribbon has multiple tools for certain stuff like modeling and stuff. Its more option will appear if we convert an object into editable poly. You don't know anything about editable poly. I know. We will see editable poly in detail soon in the course. Let's just skip these right now. We'll see these in editable poly section. We've object paint here, but people nowadays has advanced scattering tools like Forest Pack and now Chaos Scatter in Corona and V-Ray, which more than 1000% advanced than this, so we'll not see this. Also, we have Populate to populate our scene with people. The first time, if you use this, it'll ask for download the max library for people. When you once download that, you'll be able to use these options. This populate section is very buggy and a lot of time doesn't work. And the people that max use is also very outdated and people not normally use them in their work. This is just to show you how this works. Maybe you can use these people in areas that are far away from camera. From here, you can create idle areas where people just stand and sit. Blue is man and pink is for woman. If click on create flow, then you'll be able to create flow for people to move around. And finally, if you click on simulate, you'll be about to see this people in motion. If you click on play here, you'll be able to see the motion. If you click on switch resolution, then you'll be able to switch better or lower skin for these people. That's it for ribbon. Let's move forward with other tools. This curve editor is for advanced animation, so we'll not discuss this here. If you press M or click here, you'll see Material Editor box. In Material Editor, we make materials for our models. We have two types of Material Editor. The older one, Compact, and the newer one, Slate Material Editor. Compact is too old. We are not going to talk about that here. To be honest, I never used it ever. Slate Material Editor is the most important and better one. So we will go with that here. We will talk about how Material Editor work in its own section. For now, let's move forward with other tools. Render setup is the same one that we talked about when we were in rendering section. This is just another option to open this render setup. Rendered frame window, and render is also the same thing that we talked about in rendering section. Normally we don't use these buttons, we use shortcuts to open these frequently. These are the extra plugins I use in my work. We are not quite there to talk about specific plugins, so we will skip it for now. These are the backup counters introduced by Autodesk in newer versions of 3ds Max. Previously, auto backups would sometimes occur while users were working on important or heavy tasks. In large scenes, 3ds Max would automatically create backups, which occasionally caused crashes. To address this issue, 3ds Max introduced the backup countdown feature. This countdown shows when a backup is about to happen, and if you're in the middle of important work, you can reset the timer from here. That's it for Main Toolbar. In the next section, we are going to talk about Viewport and shortcuts. In this lesson, we're diving into one of the most fundamental aspects of 3ds Max, the viewport. Mastering the viewport is essential because it's your main tool for visualizing and working on your 3D models. Let's get started. The viewport is where you create, modify, and view your 3D models. When you open 3ds Max, you'll notice the interface is divided into multiple sections. The largest area in the center is the viewport area. By default, 3ds Max displays 4 viewports: top, front, left, and perspective. This is top, left, front, and perspective. There are other viewport as well, like bottom and orthographic. If you want to focus on just one viewport, press Alt plus W to maximize it. Press the same shortcut again to return to the 4-view layout. You can switch between these viewports to work on your models from different angles. To change the type of a viewport, simply click on its label in the top left corner and choose from the drop-down menu. For example, you can change a front view to a camera view or any other option. If you click on this tab, you can choose different layout as per you need. Again, press Alt plus W to go to single viewport. Also press F for front, L for left, T for top, P for perspective, and U for orthographic. Another important feature is viewport shading modes. These control how your models appear in the viewport. To access shading modes, click the drop-down menu in the top left corner of a viewport, or press the shortcut F3 for wireframe mode and F4 to toggle edged faces. Wireframe shows the edges of your models without any surface detail. Shaded displays the surfaces of your model with basic lighting. Clay mode show your viewport in different type of reddish clay color. Very useful for modeling sometimes. Pick the mode that works best for your current task. The viewport comes with a grid that helps you align and position objects. If you want to toggle the grid on or off, press G on your keyboard. You can also change the viewport background by going to Views, Viewport Background. This can be useful if you're working with reference images or need a different background color for clarity. Now let's learn how to move around in the viewport. Navigation is key when working in 3D. Use the scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom in and out. Hold down the middle mouse button and drag to pan the view. To rotate around an object, hold down Alt and the middle mouse button, then drag. Try practicing these controls until they feel natural. Before we wrap up, here are a few tips to work more efficiently in the viewport. Use Z to quickly zoom in on the selected object or the entire scene. Press Alt plus X to make object transparent temporary. These small tricks can save you a lot of time. The viewport navigation controls are located at the bottom right corner of the interface. These buttons does the same things I just taught you. Try it yourself. It has pan zoom and perspective options. The Isolate Selection toggle is a fantastic tool to isolate selected objects of the scene. To use it, select an object, then click the Isolate Selection toggle button from bottom center corner or press Alt plus Q. To return to the full scene, click the button again or press the same shortcut. This is particularly useful when working on complex scenes with many objects, as it keeps your workspace clean and manageable. The Selection Lock toggle is a handy tool that locks your current selected object, preventing you from accidentally selecting other objects in your scene. For example, if you're working on a detailed part of a model and don't want to accidentally select something else, activate the Selection Lock toggle with spacebar. To unlock, simply click the spacebar again. The coordinate display, found in the bottom centerish corner, shows the X, Y, and Z positions of the selected object or cursor in your scene. You can also manually input values here to precisely position objects. For example, if you want to place an object exactly at 50, 50, 50, simply type those values into the respective fields. Normally, this value takes effect from the center of the viewport, but if you turn on absolute mode on the left side of it, then you'll move object from its own current position and not from then center of the viewport. Next, we have the MaxScript Mini Listener, located at the bottom of the interface. It's a small text box where you can run scripts and see the results immediately. If you're into scripting or want to automate tasks, this tool is your best friend. I never used this till now because I don't know coding stuff and didn't need it to till now. Below the viewport, you'll find the animation and time controls, which let you manage your animations. The timeline displays keyframes and allows you to scrub through the animation. Use the play and stop buttons to preview animations. The key mode toggle lets you add or edit keyframes for objects. You can also adjust the playback speed and animation length here, making this area essential for animators. This stuff is for animators mostly. I haven't used it much till now. The status line bar just below the viewports provides quick updates and feedback as you work. For example, when you select or create objects, this bar shows details about that part. This bar also displays error messages or system prompts, so keep an eye on it for important updates. And that's a wrap on understanding the viewport in 3ds Max. Practice navigating and customizing the viewports until you feel comfortable. In the next lesson, we'll explore object creation and manipulation. Hi everyone, and welcome to this lesson where we'll break down one of the most important parts of the 3ds Max interface, the command panel. By the end of this video, you'll understand what the command panel does and how to use its different sections effectively. The command panel is your main hub for creating, modifying, and managing objects in your 3D scene. It's located on the right side of the interface and is divided into 6 distinct tabs. each with its own unique set of tools. Let's go over each tab one by one. Create tab. This is where you create new objects. You can make 3D models, 2D shapes, cameras, lights, and more. Modify tab. Here you can edit or modify objects using tools like modifiers. Motion tab. This tab helps you manage object relationships. For instance, if you're rigging a character or working on linked objects, you'll adjust pivot points or parent-child links here. Motion tab. This is where you control object animation settings. You'll find tools for keyframe management and motion controllers, perfect for animating your scenes. Display tab. This tab allows you to manage what you see in your viewport. You can hide or freeze objects to make it easier to focus on specific parts of your scene. Utilities tab. The Utilities tab houses extra tools like Reset Xform, which is great for cleaning up object transformations, and Measure, which helps you check dimensions. Now let's see each tab one by one. The Create tab is divided into 6 main categories, represented by buttons at the top of the panel: 1, Geometry 2, Shapes 3, Lights 4, Cameras 5, Helpers 6, Space Warps 7, Systems. Let's break down each useful category in detail. The Geometry tab has all the base modeling tool you need to start modeling. It also has different sections inside of it. So let's try to make some objects from standard primitives. Let's create a box. Click on box, and if you don't know how to make certain thing, make sure to see status bar so you'll get direction how to make certain shapes. Let's click, drag, release the drag, and click to make a box. Now your first 3D object is ready in front of you. Congratulations. You can set up length, width, and height after creating model 2. You can also add more or less segment on each slide accordingly. When you click on box or any other object, you can also define values from start, like length, width, height, or location on X, Y, and Z, and click on create, so it'll make an object accordingly. You can also choose different creation method to make object in different style. Now let's create some different shapeform standard primitives like cone, sphere, geosphere, cylinder, tube, torus, teapot, text, and plane. The plane might be the most used object in your work. Same as that, we have extended primitives, and in that you get some extra object shapes like torus knot, capsule, chamfer, box, etc. Let's make some. Further down, we have compound object. In this tab, I don't use anything currently. I was using ProBoolean before, but right now I use ProBoolean from the modifier that came with new update, and it's faster than this. Then we have some other tabs, which I never used personally in my 5 years of career, so I'm only going to show what I use, and some general stuff. We have door and windows tab, where you can make doors and windows from this tab. I personally never use these doors and windows because it's kind of buggy, to be honest. To create these, just follow the instruction from bottom left corner. And this door and windows are some good parameters like opening and closing and adding panels and stuff. If Autodesk fix bugs, form these doors. And windows, these can become the best door and window panels in the market. And then we have AEC extended from here. I use railing to make railings in my project. Just simply drag and click to make a railing. You can also make railing according to a path. Just make spline from shapes. We will look at these once we reach this panel. Go to railing, pick railing path, add segments, and that's it. Okay. So geometry tab is over now. Let's move over to shapes. What spline basically does is that it'll create 2D shapes that you can use further in your work. Spline also has some other tab into it, but to be honest, I never use them now. Let's create line. Select line, click, and click. That's it. Now let's first create some other shape, and we are going to look at their properties. Let's create rectangle, circle, ellipse, arc, text, and freehand. Freehand is basically work like drawing on a plane, so use it carefully. Now, when you select each spline and go to Modify tab, you'll see their properties. When we will go to Modify section, I'll talk about these properties in detail. Right now, just test out with length and width and some basic parameters from your end. In next tabs, there are lights and cameras. Normally, we don't use default light and camera. We go to Corona or V-Ray sub tab into these tab, and then we use lights from those render engines. So we'll skip those for now. We will skip these helpers, space warps, and systems sections too, because in this long journey of 5 years of mine, I barely used it. There are some tips for you guys though. While creating any shape or geometry, if you turn on AutoGrid, then that shape or that object will be made upon the beneath surface, like I show in this example. This is quite useful tip for your work. You can set color of your object from here. And if you don't want 3ds Max to create different shape in random color, make sure to turn off assign random color. Then it will create objects in single colors. This is the end of this Create tab, the one of the most used panel in 3ds Max. Let's now go to Modify tab. Modify tab is the first most used tab in 3ds Max. All your work is going to happen from here. So are you ready? In Modifier tab, everything happens with the help of modifiers. There are lots of modifiers in 3ds Max. These helps in modeling stuff in 3ds Max. In order to use modifier, you need to have selected at least one object or shape. If you click here and type, then you'll find your modifier here. Now you can put more modifier on top of each other, and if you don't need it, you can collapse also. Now let's create box from geometry and rectangle from shapes. Now if you go to Modify tab, after selecting each one of these, you'll see different set of tools. We have lots of modifiers like shell, Turbosmooth, FFD, Symmetry, etc. Now, as you can see, here are some stuff that is grayed out. These are the modifiers that I set as shortcuts. If you want to set these modifiers as a shortcut, then you need to click here and click on Show buttons. Now go to Configure Modifier Set and drag all the modifier that you might use in your daily life in here and hit OK. Now you'll see them here. Now remember to further adjust. You'll have two main modifier to choose from. It's not necessary, but I think in my opinion, 80 to 90% work we do as a 3D artist, we do in these two modifiers. Either you convert it to Editable Poly or Editable Spline. There are more options, but those are mostly outdated now. You can use other modifiers as well. If you need some specific work done, you can use those too. Now we are going to start from Editable Poly and Editable Spline. After that, we'll look at other modifiers as well. Now, the Editable Poly is for geometry, and Editable Spline is for shapes. You can convert shapes to Editable Poly, but you have to know what you are doing with it, and you can't convert a geometry to Editable Spline because it obviously doesn't going to work. Now you have two options. You either add Editable Poly or Editable Spline as modifier, or you completely convert it into Editable Poly or Editable Spline. To completely convert, you have to right-click in this box and click on Editable Poly or Spline. If you want to add these as modifiers, then you can click on Modifier List and search Editable Poly or Editable Spline. What this will do is that it'll add Editable Poly or Editable Spline as extra modifiers. Both has its own advantage and disadvantage. The more you use 3ds Max, the more you're going to know about it by yourself. Now these Editable Poly or Editable Spline modifier are used to make further adjustment to the geometry and shapes. Editable Poly is a type of modifier in 3ds Max that provides access to advanced modeling tools. It allows you to manipulate the geometry of your model at a very granular level, making it ideal for creating detailed models. Editable Poly has 5 sub-object levels: vertex, edge, border, polygon, element. If you press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it'll open its properties accordingly. 1 for vertex, 2 for edge, 3 for border, 4 for polygon, and 5 for element. These each sub-object has its own properties, and some properties are general properties which you'll see in each sub-levels. Let's see each one by one. Vertices are points where edges meet. At this level, you can move, scale, or manipulate individual points. Edges are the lines between vertices. At this level, you can adjust edges, connect them, or create new ones. Borders are open edges of a mesh. These occur where geometry is incomplete or open. Polygons are the flat faces of a mesh. Each face is called polygon. This level is useful for adjusting the overall shape. Elements are separate, contiguous parts of a mesh. This is basically the parts that are joined together as one object in Editable Poly. This level lets you work with entire chunks of geometry. Now let's go to Editable Poly level by clicking here. Right-click here and press open all to open all panels. Now lots of options are grayed out. It'll only open when we go to its dedicated sub-level. I'll show you once we talk about that. Now I'll talk about important options one by one and leave the unnecessary one. Just remember our shortcut 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now whenever I want to go vertex, edge, border, polygon, and element, I'll press that as I taught you before. Okay, first important option is by angle, so to use it, let's make a cylinder, convert it to Editable Poly, and let's go to polygon. So let's press 4. Now turn on by angle and set it to 5. Now when I select a polygon, what will happen is that it'll select polygon that is 5 or less degrees. Now let's go to vertex by pressing 1 on a keyboard. Next is shrink and grow. So if you select vertex anywhere and click on grow, it'll grow the selection. And if you click on shrink, it'll reduce the selection. Next is ring and loop. So let's turn off by angle and go to edge by pressing 2 and select any edge. And now if you press loop, it'll select entire connected edge. You can also do this by double clicking on the edge too. If you press ring, then it will select all edge in its flow vertically. Now let's go to vertex. We will see some options one by one in each level. Let's make a plan with a lot of vertices. First option is soft selection. Turn it on and select any vertex. Now increase fall off, and now you'll see colorful gradient. Now this vertex upward, and you'll see the kind of form it creates. So make this kind of organic shapes. You can use this option. You can add Turbosmooth modifier to smooth out this shape. You can also use pinch and bubble to determine the shape of soft selection. Let's try something. Let's add pinch and bubble, and as you can see now, fall off has changed. Now let's turn it off. Now in edit vertices, we have some options. Remove will remove any vertex you've selected. Break will break any vertices into pieces. You see. Extrude will make extrusion from selected vertices. In any option, you'll have this setting box next to it. If click on that, you'll see multiple options for that option. So let's click on setting button next to extrude. You can set height and width of the extrude from here. You can click OK, and if you press plus, then you'll get another same effect happening to previously made vertices. Let's collapse all this. Now we have weld. With this, you can weld multiple vertices together by distance. We have chamfer to chamfer vertices. You can also use it like this. With target weld, you can weld vertices by target. Let's turn on target weld, click on vertex, and click on another next to it. Now, first vertex has been welded to the next like this. With connect, you can connect multiple vertex together. Now let's go to Edit Geometry. In Constraint, we normally use None, but sometimes we use Edge to move vertices on the same edge. Set it on Edge, and now when you move your vertex, it'll move on only nearby edges only. Now let's set it to None. With Collapse, you can collapse multiple vertices in one. If you have multiple objects in the scene and you want to attach them together, you can do it from this Attach button here. If you want to remove something from this editable poly, then you can use Detach here. Now, Detach has three options. If you simply detach, then it'll that part from this edit poly. If you turn on Detach to Element, we'll only detach that part as an element. And if you turn on Detach as Clone, then it'll make a copy of that part and detach that clone. With Slice Plane, you can cut part of your mesh. If you turn on Split, then press Slice, then it'll make two elements without welding the vertices. Sorry, the edge mode was on in Constraint. That's why it was not moving. Set it to None. With Quick Slice, you click twice, and it'll cut down part accordingly. With Cut, you can manually move through and cut different parts. We have Mesh Smooth that will try to make selection smooth with adding more geometry. and tessellate, that will add just more segment to work with. With Make Planner X, Y, and Z, you can try to make you mesh a line by angle. Hide on Hide can help you hide part that is bothering you while modeling. When you turn on Push, Pull, if you click and move mouse on the surface, it'll pull surface towards you. If you hold Control, right-click and move mouse around, then it'll try to set it as base where you've started from. If you hold Alt, right-click and move mouse around, then it'll push your surface inside. If you turn on Relax and click on Surface, it'll try to relax pinched areas. You can change force, size, and strength from below for 3 of this. There are Same, Weld, Extrude, Chamfer, and Connect, etc. tool in each element, so I won't cover it again. But there are some specific tool in each level, which we will cover now. So we've covered everything in Vertex. Then let's go to Edges. We've created Shape in Edges. With this, you can export spline shape out of polygons. Let's select bunch of edges and press Create Shape, Linear, and OK. As you can see, it has created editable spline from edges. Let's go to Border. In this level, we have specific option called Cap. With this, we can cap open borders. Let's delete some polygons. Go to Border and Cap to fill the space. Very useful feature sometimes. Let's go to Polygon. We have Bevel, which is basically next level of Extrude. You can extrude and add bevel with one setting. Next, we have Insert. With this, you can inset polygon like this. Next, we've Bridge. With this, we can connect two polygon together. It has lots of inside tools. Make sure to check it out yourself. With Flip, you can flip polygon on the wrong side. Next, we have Hinge from Edge. With this, you can extrude polygon from selected center edge. Next, we have Extrude along Spline, which does exactly as the name suggests. Let's create Spline first. Select Polygon and select Spline in Extrude along Spline setting, and it'll create Extrude along this spline. From ribbon, I want to show you 1 to 2 options. Create a plane from here, add more segments, right-click, and make it editable poly. As you can see, a lot more options has come up now. We are not going to see all these options now because it's the same options we already saw in editable poly tools. First, we have Generate Topology tool. If you go to Polygon Modeling and click on Generate Topology, you find this. What this does is that it can help you create some procedural shapes. Click on any of the shape and you'll see it making shape on the basic of how many segments you have in your object. Some pattern will not work unless you select edge from editable poly. Just select an edge in editable poly if some pattern doesn't appear as you click on them. This is a very useful tool. Make sure to practice it. Next, we've .loop and .ring tool. With this, you can select alternate edges from polygons. Next, we've set flow. Many times we have this kind of shape and we need to get perfect flow so we can use this. You can also do this in Swift Loop tool. By holding Shift while making edges, you can apply edge flow directly. Next, we've Shift tool. This tool can help you shift over all shape. If you hold Control plus hold left click and drag the mouse up and down, you'll adjust fall off of this tool. If you hold Shift plus hold left click and drag the mouse up and down, you'll adjust strength of the Shift tool. And now you can use it like this, just click and drag surfaces. Finally, I have showed you the most useful editable poly option. Now let me show you some shortcut to make your life more easier. Now if you are in polygon mode, select polygon, and if you hold Shift and move your poly, it'll create extrude. If you want to remove polygon backside, then hold Shift, push polygon backward to remove it. If you press Alt plus 1, and it'll activate Swift Loop mode, which can let you create edge loop for entire flow. If you select polygon and hold Control and double click on the polygon next to it, it'll select entire loop of polygon for you. If you hold Shift and move your mouse along the polygon flow, then it'll select all the polygon that your mouse has been moved. If you press Control plus Shift plus E while selecting multiple vertices, then this will connect them together. If you press Control plus Shift plus W, then this will turn on target weld. If you press Alt plus C, this will turn on cut tool from Edit Poly. If you hold Control plus Shift and move poly out of editable poly shape, you can detach this way too. If you press Control plus V while selecting an object, or if you move your object while holding Shift, you'll get dialog to copy or instance. The copy is just copy of an object, but instance is something different. Instance will make linked copy of any object. Now, if I do something to any of the object, other will follow. If you now want to make unique object, then you'll press here to make it unique object. Now, both objects are individual and work independently. Now, finally, editable poly modifier is covered. Now, let's move on to another very important modifier called editable spline. Editable spline is a type of modifier in 3ds Max that is used to create and edit 2D curve-based geometry. Splines are versatile and can be used in various modeling tasks, such as creating paths, lofts, and detailed shapes for extrusion. You can convert any two-dimensional shape into an editable spline by right-clicking the object, selecting Convert to Editable Spline from the Context menu. Alternatively, you can apply the Edit Spline modifier to a shape to retain the original object while enabling spline editing. Editable spline has three main sub-object levels: vertex, segment. Spline vertices are points that define the shape of the spline. Segments are the lines between two vertices. A spline is an entire curve consisting of connected segments. Same as editable poly, we can also press 1, 2, and 3 to go to its sub-levels. So for 1 to vertex, 2 to segment, and 3 to spline. Now, before we look at all the useful setting, let's see some important things in spline. So if you right-click while selecting vertex in spline, then we will have 4 options to adjust spline further. Let's select one vertex and select Bezier corner. Now what that will do is that it'll give you the ability to adjust spline from the both end of the vertex. If you can see, there are 2 green color helpers appeared, which can help you move between vertex like this. If you set it to only Bezier, then it'll give you option to move spline like it's connected from both end. Now you make it corner, then it'll simply make it cornered, and same with smooth, it'll make spline smooth without any control. I hope these 4 options are cleared to you. Now let me show you one more thing. While creating the spline, if you click and drag, then it'll make your line Bezier, and if you just click, then it'll make it cornered. Now let's see splines options. First one is enable in renderer. This will show this spline in your render and enable in viewport. This will show your spline shape in viewport. Now remember, by turning these will make your spline act like geometry. You can now further control your spline shape from these options. We have radial and rectangular 2 option to choose from. We can set thickness and adjust side segments from here. Now one important thing is interpolation. If you increase steps here, then it'll increase the segment in between vertex. You can turn on or off adaptive and optimize as per your need. In selection show, vertex number is sometimes useful for seeing where spline is broken from. Soft selection is the same as we saw in editable poly. In here, it just works with spline. In geometry, these are the same option that we saw in editable poly. With refine, you can add extra vertex in spline. If you turn on automatic welding, then when 2 vertex get together in that set threshold, it'll be welded automatically. Weld will weld, vertex together, connect will connect 2 vertices together. Make first with make selected vertex first number. Fuse will collapse selected vertex together. We have option of fillet and chamfer. So basically, if I put this easily, fillet will give smooth chamfer, and chamfer will add hard chamfer. Outline will only work in spline, and that will make outline of selected parts. Boolean can help you cut different part of your spline, but you need to have 2 spline into 1 intersecting point. We have 3 options in this. First, select 1 spline and select first option union and turn on Boolean, and click on intersecting spline. This will merge both lines together from intersection. Now in subtraction, what this will do is it'll remove other spline from subtraction. And last, in intersection, it'll only save intersection part and remove everything else. With trim, you can trim intersection part. And with extend, you can extend open vertex till the next spline in front of it. Now detach is important. If you detach, then it'll detach that spline. And if you turn on copy and then detach, then you'll detach a copy of that spline. Now finally, our editable spline is also over. And now we are going to look at other useful modifier from Modify tab. We have FFD modifier in multiple category 2x2x2, 3x3x3, 4x4x4, box and cylinder. This modifier can help you make certain shape in your work. Let's create a box and apply FFD 2x2x2. Can you see this 2 point each side? If you press 1, then you can move these points to make different shape according to your need. In its other variations, it's the same thing, you just get more points to move shape. Let's test it. And in box or cylinder, you can manually add more points by putting the value. Now, symmetry is sometimes a very important tool. What you can do with this tool basically is that you can make a mirrored copy on other side of the object. Now let's add symmetry. If you click on symmetry on more time, then you can move or rotate to make your desired shape. As you can see, you can make so many different kind of shapes with this modifier. You can make symmetry in X, Y, or Z axis as per your need. You can also pick another object as a reference to make a symmetry. Slice along mirror will make a slice along the center, and weld seam threshold will make sure to weld from that slice. You can increase and decrease the values as per your need. Till now we were seeing planar symmetry. Now we will see radial symmetry. Its options are the same as planar, but you can use this differently to make different kind of radial shapes out of it. Can just see its power, like what it can do. It's just amazing. With Lathe modifier, you can make certain circular geometries form splines. Let's make a spline in front viewport. Now let's add Lathe modifier to it. Now press 1 and move its axis. As you can see, with just this simple shape, we made this artifact. Quick tip, can you see the button? If you turn this on and off, then this can help you see what is applied above the current level. Now you can make shape and see results in real time. We have weld core, which will weld the core of spline and flip normal to flip the normal of the shape. You can add segments to smooth out the shape of it. With normalized spline, you can add more vertex according to your need by distance or by vertex count. With sweep, you can make moldings and stuff like that. Basically a pattern that is repeated along the line. Let's make a line and add sweep modifier to it. You can add some built-in shapes to it, to like box road and all. Here are the parameters of the selected shape, like length, width, and corner radius. You can set these shapes in different pivot alignments too. Also, you can mirror it across different axis planes. Make sure you turn smooth path off every time. It messes with smoothing sometimes. Let's select the same shape that we previously created by clicking here. And now your path shape is linked with this shape. You can change shape as you like, and this sweep will change accordingly. Turbosmooth is the most important modifiers, especially for modelers. This modifier helps with making objects smoother by their shape. Let's make a box and add Turbosmooth modifier. You see how it's making it circular. You can increase its density from here. If you put value in render interaction, then nothing will happen in viewport, and only it's going to show up in rendering. Now let's make this shape and add Turbosmooth. As you can see what it's trying to do, it's trying to smooth out center edge from one end to another. To minimize its effect, we need to add supporting edge. Now, as you can see, its effect has been limited between these two supporting edges. These three UVW map, Uvw Xform, and unwrap UVW modifiers are for mapping of materials. I'll show you how to use UVW map and Uvw Xform in this course. Unwrap UVW it'll not show you because it needs its own dedicated section to understand, and only if you really need to learn this, then you learn this modifier. So to use UVW modifier first, let's apply material. I might not have teach you how to apply material till now, but don't worry, just do as I say, and let's learn this modifier. Press F10 and make render engine scanline renderer. Now press M and take standard material from here. Now select box, right-click on material, and press apply this material to selection. Now let's take tile map from general and plug it into diffuse of the standard material. Right-click and turn on show shaded material in viewport. Make it running bond. Now let's apply UVW map on the box. By default, it's going to have a planar mapping. You can set the length, height, and width of your mapping from here. You can also use multiply method from tile to make multiplied result, like you put 4 here to make mapping multiplied by 4. You can also flip the mapping from here. There are different types of mapping here, like box, spherical, cylindrical, and planar. Right now we have box, so let's choose box mapping. Now you can set mapping like this. Now lots of time you'll have models in your scene that will already have advanced mapping applied to it, and you need to change the material of it that has different scale. And at that time you can't use different UVW map because it'll mess up the previously done mapping. So that time you can use Uvw Xform. This modifier only has tiling, rotation, and offset feature. So you just adjust these three and work out your way around it. Chamfer is another most useful modifier that can help smooth out corner edges. In 3ds Max 2024, this modifier is just perfect. I don't change anything extra from its setting. You have amount of chamfer, like how much chamfer you need, and its segments of it. Also, we have inset. This will help you straight up the other area after where chamfer end. You can also adjust its values. Shell modifier is also one of the most useful one. This one basically adds depth to your plane or object. You can add shell on outer side, inner side, or both side. You can also add segments to it as per your need. We have push modifier. Sometimes it helps to push polygons inner or outer side. Noise modifier can help you add noise to even surface. This modifier is very important sometimes, like we have X, Y, and Z direction to add noise from, and scale will help with the scale of the noise. Subdivide can help sometime to add extra polygons to a face when we need to bend it or something. You can decrease its size to make more denser geometry. This is one of the modifier for which I switched to newer version of 3ds Max. Retopology help with creating square polygonal geometry while working. A lot of time when we work, we get to a situation where we have triangle faces, and sometimes it couldn't let us do things that we do. This helps with solving that problem and help make rectangular polygons for use automatically. Just put retopology modifier, add face count, and compute. That's it. Like, there are a lot of options to it, but normally use just this one. We have new Boolean modifier in 3ds Max 2024. Again, one of the modifiers that made me switch to 2024. This help with cutting intersection and union area according to your need. Works very easily. If you want to join areas, then select union and select other object. If you want to get only intersected areas, then select intersect and select other object. If you want to cut part that other object intersecting with, then select subtract. If you just want to split object into two pieces by intersecting object, then select split. If you want to merge all two pieces and also want to get intersecting part as third piece, then select merge. Attach is simply attach. If you want to add another intersecting object into this object while cutting throughout, first object, then select insert. So there you go, it's done. Bend can bend stuff as the name suggests. Just put whichever axis you want your bend to happen and set direction. You can limit certain area from happening the bend, though upper and lower limit taper can help you make dome kind of shape easily. You can define the taper amount, and also you have curve option with which you can make curved shape in the sides. Twist will help you make twist with angle parameter. And with bias, you can define whether you get more twist in bottom or in top. Slice can help you slice geometry in different ways. You can slice along angles, or also you can move your gizmo by clicking on Slice modifier or press 1 on a keyboard. You can split mesh in two or remove upper or lower part with cap on or off as per your need. If you have multiple same object in the scene and you want them to replace with another object all at once, you can use Substitute modifier and select another shape from here, and then you collapse entire stack and convert into editable poly. If you have some text or any kind of object that you want, move on to another surface, you can do it with Conform modifier. Just select first object and put Conform modifier on it and select another object in pick object. Now you have some parameters that you can use to use Conform modifier effectively. Spherify modifier distorts an object into a spherical shape as much as it can. Now let's make a box and apply Turbosmooth on it. Now it's kind of sphere but not entirely. Now put Spherify and you'll see what's happening with this modifier on it creates a perfect circle. Lattice can help you make renderable structural geometry based on the mesh topology. Now let's put lattice on this sphere to see its effect. As you can see, it's making this structural pattern on this structure. Wherever there's an edge, it's making a spline, and wherever there's a vertex, it's making this star type structure. It has some parameters that you can easily understand yourself. Array is also one of the modifiers that made me switch to Max 2024. It's a very complex modifier, so I'm not going to teach you everything right now, but just the basics. Let's apply modifier on a box. It's going to instantly make total 5 copies of the box on x-axis with offset of 1. So all the copies are going to be really close to each other. Let's create more space between them by increasing offset or spacing. Now you can make more copies in y-axis or in z-axis from here. Now you can change rotation, position, and scale for these copies like this. You can make so many things with this modifier. I'll make one specific video about it in the future. Displace can help you see 2D texture displacement in real time without turning the rendering on. You need more segments in geometry for using it. Now let's make a plane with more segment and apply display modifier. Now let's press M and from material editor take noise map and plug it into map in Displace. Now you can adjust strength to see your noise displacement in real time. The white areas will go up and the black areas are going to go down. Now finally, all the modifier and the most important part of this course is done. Now let's move on to hierarchy tab. The hierarchy tab I mostly use for aligning the pivots of the object and locking certain transformation of the scene. For aligning the pivot in the center, just select the object, go to hierarchy tab, pivot effect, pivot only, center to object. For locking objects on certain object. Transformations, select the object, go to hierarchy tab, pivot link info, lock X, Y, or Z of move, rotation, or scale of the object. I haven't ever used motion and the display tab in the last 5 years, so we can skip that. If I ever find good use of these tabs, then I'll definitely look into it. For now, let's skip it. In Utilities tab, we have some useful stuff I want to show you. Measure can help you measure object quickly. Simply select Object, then select this Measure tool, then it'll show you the measurement of that object. Many times we rotate and scale object, and then it doesn't work as it should. So to fix that, we have to use Reset Xform. This tool will reset all that gizmo issues you have in your object. Uvw remove can help you remove Uvw and material of your object. Just simply select object and click on whichever you want to remove from the object. That was the full overview of the command panel in 3ds Max. Spend some time exploring each tab and trying out its tools. The more familiar you are with this panel, the smoother your workflow will become. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. This is the last part of this course, so let's jump right into it. Let's press M and go to Material Editor, and as I've shown you before, there are two types of Material Editor in 3ds Max. Compact and Slate Material Editor. The compact one is the old one. We are only going to see the Slate Material Editor, which is newer one. I'm not going to show you how to make material in this course because we haven't introduced the render engine yet. Render engine is something that's going to help you render stuff in 3ds Max. There are a lot of render engine in the market like Corona, V-Ray, and F-Storm, etc. 3ds Max also has some render engine inbuilt inside of 3ds Max. But in work, don't use these renderers because a lot of time they lack important things and probably harder to process by daily working artists. So I personally use Corona and V-Ray, which is currently under by Chaos Group, and they are fantastic to work with as a daily ArchViz artist. Now we are going to see where you can find important thing in this material editor. So if you can see here, it says the material, and here are the name of the render engines. Right? Normally we use some materials from general material category. I've V-Ray installed in this version, but its materials are not showing up because we haven't set as a main renderer. So let's set it and see. As you can see now, lots of V-Ray materials are showing up here now. I'm just showing you this. We are not going to see V-Ray material in this course. So as you can see, each render engine has its own materials that only going to work in their own engine. But standard and general category is something that's going to work in every render engine. Also, as you can see below, these are called procedural maps. These maps is something we can plug into material as needed. We have some maps that has been created in 3ds Max, and some you'll get with render engines. As you can see, these are the maps that came with V-Ray. We also have other maps called OSL maps, which comes with 3ds Max. This stuff is the most craziest in 3ds Max, but as a ArchViz artist, I never used it because they have their own workaround and stuff. You can learn these yourself if you're interested. I never used it before. Now let's drag standard material from here to main canvas. This panel is called Navigator. This panel is called Parameter Editor. And this panel is called Material Browser. You can turn this on or off from here. From this navigator, you can navigate around for your materials. And from this, you can adjust materials parameter. Now let's make a box and apply standard material. Right click and apply to selection. This is how you apply material to any object in 3ds Max. Now let's see multi-sub material. From general material, I only use multi-sub material. This is basically lets you apply material based on their IDs of polygon. Now let's add two standard material for testing. Now let's apply this to a box. Right click and apply to selection or click here. Now let's first connect these two standard materials to multi-sub and now apply it to box. And now reduce its ID to 2 because we only have two material connected to this multi-sub material. Let's change one material to blue and other to red. You can change material's color from this diffuse parameter BTW. Now let's set ID in editable poly. You can set it from here. Let's select all polygons by Control plus A and set it to 1 and select one poly and set ID to 2. As you can see, our material is applied accordingly. From here, you can select polygon by material IDs 2, put one here and click on select ID. Now all the polygons with one ID will be selected. You can see all assigned IDs from here too. Now let's delete this material from Material Editor. Now remember this, if you apply material to certain object, and after that, even if you delete your material from Material Editor, your material will still be applied to your object. It just only gets deleted from the Material Editor. To get it back, let's select this pick icon and pick it from the box. As you can see, material has got picked from the box. Now I have some maps that I want to show you. Let's create standard material and apply it to this box. Go to General Map and drag out Checker. Now let's put it into Diffuse. Diffuse is basically main texture channel that is going to show up in the render. If you select Checker Map and you click on this button here, and it's going to show that map onto the object. This option is useful when you have multiple maps plugged into the material and you want to see certain map on your object. Now let's add Uvw map modifier and set tiling as I shown you before. Now let's see Checker Map's parameter. If you click on Checker Map, you'll be able to see its parameter. You can change color from here. You can soften its edges. And also set tiling from here. Let's add a tile map and see its parameters. As you can see, it has different kind of tiling options to choose from. Also, you can set colors of tile and grout, and in those patterns, you also get advanced option to manipulate tiles even more. As you can see, there is a lot of potential in using procedural maps. There are a lot of maps, but if we use them right now, you will not be able to see their potential in work. So we are ending this material chapter here. Practice what I taught you more so these basics get clearer in your brain. And with this said, I'm closing this fifth and the last lesson of this course. Now, if you learn anything from this course, or even starting your journey into 3ds Max from this course, I want one or two things from you too. First, I want you guys to fill one form from the link in the description. In this form, I'm getting your opinions on next course that I'm planning about mastering interior visualization in Corona. Next, I want you guys to like this video so it reaches more people and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any update from this channel. And if you guys want to personally connect with me, I want you to follow me on Instagram where I stay active the most. I'll put all the links in the description. That's the end of this course, guys. I hope you learned so many things from this course. This is basically everything you need to learn in 3ds Max to work your way out to become an ArchViz artist. I know a lot of things wouldn't make sense to you at first, so I want you guys to do practice for at least 2 to 3 months on this course and watch certain part more time to understand. I taught you everything I know and used in 3ds Max in the last 5 years of my career. I know it's a big claim, but it's true. I still remember when I first started out, I paid almost $300 for the fraction of these things that I taught in this course. They taught me useless options that I wasn't ever going to use in my life. So I had to go through every freaking mini detail videos on YouTube to learn the most important part. And if I remember correctly, I almost watched 3,000 to 4,000 YouTube videos till now to improve my workflow in 3ds Max. And with this, I'm proudly telling you, this is the most complete free 3ds Max course you'll ever gonna find, and the only course you need to get your hands on 3ds Max. The options and feature I taught in this course are the only options I ever used in 3ds Max in the last 5 years of my career. You probably don't need anything else. Otherwise, 3ds Max is a very big software. You can't learn everything even when you put 10 years into it. So what's important is that you only learn thing that is important to your work. I also purely encourage you to share this free course with any of your friend who is starting in 3D to save time from learn useless things from those paid courses and learn the most important thing quickly. I'm also planning to make one another course, Mastering Interior Visualization with Corona. In this course, I'll teach how to make beautiful interior renders from scratch in Corona. Same as this course, I'll teach you the most important things in Corona, and we'll go straight to point with every technique I ever learned in my lifetime of career, no BS. But I'm afraid this course is going to be the paid one. I would have made available for free, but YouTube algorithm doesn't favors such important stuff. So if put that course for free, and people bounce on another video in few minutes, then YouTube thinks this video is not that worthwhile. Also, another reason I'm not going to make that course for free is because I don't want to teach people who doesn't respect this art. This 3D art changed my life in a way I can't even describe. For me, it's everything. It's only happened because I took things into my own hands and worked my ass off day and night for almost 3 to 4 years. This is the only thing you really need to succeed in 3D field. You have to show up and improve every day. I also know that 95% of people will not even see this section. Everyone wants things easily nowadays. And also, if you're here at the ending, congratulations, you're one of the 5% people who took matters into their own hands. So yeah, the interior visualization masterclass is going to be paid one, but how much you want this masterclass for is up to you guys. I've put a form link in the description. Make sure to fill it and submit it. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.